Okay, I welcome you to another episode of Learning Stories. This is an audio and video show where we interview a diverse set of learners from the 21st century. On each episode of this show, we interview a guest who has a story to share about how they acquired a set of skills and knowledge in a creative and innovative manner. In the process, we hope to uncover a new understanding of learning as conceptualized, imagined, and narrated by the guest in our show. Today's guest, Mansi Shah, is someone whose work really inspires me. I was fortunate to come across the organization's website through another peer, and I am just amazed at the amount of impact this one organization is having in its time and in its capacity. So, a little bit about Mansi before we jump into the conversation. Mansi is the founder of Happy Feet Home Foundation. This is a non-profit organization in Mumbai that ensures that children get the palliative care they need. Their services include a daycare center, a hospital outreach program, a community outreach program, and a home care. They provide their children with nutrition, medical support, education support, psychosocial support, life skills development, celebrations, wish fulfillment, respite care, end of life care, and bereavement support. I will be linking the Happy Feet Home Foundation's website in the show notes, along with links to their Instagram and blogs, which I've really enjoyed reviewing before this interview. But Mansi, to start off with your story, I'd like to start this off with your journey, going back to your childhood. I'm just curious about what Mansi was like as a student at school. What did you study and what were some of your hobbies outside school?
Sure. So when I was in school, I was very average. I was an average student. Um, Passed my exams somehow, and but I was always my teacher's pet. Like teachers were always very fond of me. I had like great rapport and relationship with my teachers. Um, I was a very, very different child in college, at school actually. Like if you were to see me in school and all my school friends, if they were to see me today, and whenever they find out about the work I do, what I have become, they are quite stunned because they're they're astonished because they feel like, okay, this is not the Mansi we knew. This is not the Mansi we had imagined to grow up to be. Because I was quite shy. I did not have too many friends. I was like usually the last bencher because also I'm very tall, so always the last bencher. Um, so yeah, like school was pretty much very, very normal. I mean, going to school, coming back home, and that's about it. But if you were to look at my childhood from my family's perspective, from my family angle, that was very different because my family has brought me up like like a princess, honestly. I mean, I've had a beautiful childhood. I used to live in a joint family till I was 10, so I've had like a lot of pampering and a lot of lard pyar types. And uh, like everybody, I'm the firstborn in my family, so everyone has is doting towards me, right? So that has been a blessing. um in terms of college was very different. I kind of grew up in college. I started taking part in various competitions and shows, and I used to take lead in my college, in my classroom, to do projects and presentations and stuff like that. So in college I had a very different uh, presence, uh, uh, as compared to school. And then my life changed again. So my life has basically been in very different phases: my school phase, my college phase, and then the first job I did after my college, that phase.
And I know in college, Mansi, you studied history. So was there a particular reason, like you majored in history and not any other subject, and not the commerce or the science and the arts stream in particular?
One, I would think I always wanted to do arts, because the subjects really interested me. And to be very honest, while I was in school, I never liked history. I used to hate that subject, like most children do. Um, but the reason why I chose history as my final year subject, and that means I had to write 6 papers in history, so 6 different topics of history. That is only because of the teachers. The teachers that we had in my college were just phenomenal. Like, they were ones who could actually make you fall in love with history and everything that has happened in the world. When they talk about the world wars and the Maharashtra history, like, the Marathas and even the British rule and stuff like that, you can actually feel that it's like a motion picture in front of you and things are actually happening. And that was really, really beautiful. It was mesmerizing in a way. So my teachers have been really amazing, and that is the only reason why I did history.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of your work is also connected to education in some way, right, Mansi? And when you were telling me about this story about that connection you had with your university teachers, do you remember any other teachers from school that also stayed with you for the way they shared their love of a subject? Or it could be
Yeah,
adults
I
too,
mean,
not just.
I used to have like really good teachers. In fact, like when I was in school, when I was doing my 10th standard, I used to have these tutors who used to come to my house to teach me. And again, these were tutors who taught me history and Hindi Marathi. And those tutors were again like really, really outstanding, very, very amazing people. The love for the subject and the proficiency they had about the subject was just amazing. It was like, um, when somebody's talking about the subject that they master in or subject they feel passionate about, you will feel that it's only from the way they speak, the way they express themselves, you can understand like how fond they are of what they're teaching, and that immediately translates into them being brilliant teachers. So yes, I've had quite a few really, really amazing teachers while growing up, whether in school or in college or even as my tutors.
Yeah, I see that warmth in you that teachers normally have, Mansi. While you're talking, you just seem like a very kind, generous person in spirit. And like I'm curious about your first professional job outside university, Mansi. Like I know you worked with the Akanksha Foundation. So
Yes.
what was your experience like there? And you did that for quite some time, about 6 to 7 years, if I'm
8 years.
correct. But I'd love to know what was your journey like there, right out of university.
So Akanksha for me is home, um, and that is the third phase of my being me. This is where I actually changed completely as a person. I almost became a different person, a new person. If you were to look at me, like I say, like when I tell you how I was very different in school and different in college, vis-a-vis how I was when I was in Akanksha, and how Akanksha has helped me shape my life and my personality. Um, so, like as you know, Akanksha is it works on in the field of education for children who come from low income backgrounds, and my job there was of a teacher. So I was in Akanksha for 8 years, and I used to teach children who came from low income backgrounds, and um, it has really shaped me into a very different person, because like Akanksha gave you the freedom to explore, freedom to do things your way, freedom to fail, to succeed, to fall, to rise up again. It's a beautiful organization, and people there are just amazing. And I feel that my entire life changed after my stint with Akanksha. Like I did various things in Akanksha. So like I said, I was a teacher, and I did that for about 3 years. And then I also worked as a social worker, and I did that also for about 3 years, I guess. But one of the things that I did consistently in Akanksha was I ran this program called Social Leadership Program, which was then changed into Service Learning Program. So I was running that program, and then I was managing that program. It was all around issues around the world. How do they impact us? How do you look at it from a micro angle to a macro angle? How do you see like how pollution, or say population, or child rights, or anything for that matter. Like, how is that impacting you? And then how is that impacting the world at large, or how is it impacting the world, and how is it then narrowing down to you? So we used to do that, and then a lot around leadership and a lot around service and stuff like that. So I used to ensure, like, I used to make sure that we have well well planned classes and sessions in the organization. And yeah, that was amazing, because it gave me an opportunity to meet a lot of people, like a lot of really interesting, very very inspiring people. And like, I very strongly believe that no matter who you meet, like, people come into your life for a reason, season, or a lifetime. But whenever they leave a part of them with you. And we in our lives carry various parts of different people. We have, like, a little shade of this one, and a little shade of that one, and a little influence from here, and a little influence from there. So I feel that Akanksha and all the people I met because of Akanksha had a big thing, big hand in making me who I am today.
It's such a beautiful way to put it, Mansi, because I'm just thinking that when you speak about learning from your peers, and I got a chance to speak to Rohit, who's also a common friend, and he told me about his journey and how it was also influenced by his time at Akanksha. And I'm just curious about when you say learning, because you said you were a teacher, then you were a social worker. So did you enroll in programs to get the skills you needed for that, or you were just learning on the job and learning from peers or learning from other programs in that setting?
So in Akanksha, like, after I did my graduation in history, like, I enrolled into this course for being a teacher. So I did a teacher training course for a year,
Okay.
which certifies me to be a pre-primary kindergarten teacher. And then I joined Akanksha right uh, after my college. So they put me in a, so Akanksha centers used to have levels, level 1 to level 10. Level 1 is the tiniest children, like between the age of 5 and 6, and then level 2 and level 3, and so on and so forth. So I started as a level 1, level 2 teacher, but within about 2 or 3 months, they saw that I had the potential, and they immediately put me into a level 7 to level 10 um, uh, class. And I was like barely, like, little older than them, than the children that I was teaching. Like, if they were 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So 14 to 18 is where is the age group, and I was about 22. So that was like really interesting to see, like, we basically pretty much peers, and then I'm I'm being a teacher there. um So yeah, I mean, I'm sorry. What did you want? What was the next thing?
No, I was just curious about, like, you did answer my question, Mansi. Like, how were you learning from your peers? And you mentioned that you did like a teacher training program and that set
Yeah.
you up really well, for the other experiences. But this idea of a community center or a center that supports learning, was this where the seed of that set up? Because I'm curious about how your time at Akanksha influenced your thinking behind, creating Happy Feet Home, or was there some sort of connection between your experience here and what you did with Happy Feet Home?
So no, Akanksha does not really play a role in me setting up Happy Feet Home, but of course it gave me a lot of tools and empowered me to do a lot on my own. But what I did was, after Akanksha, I started working in another organization called St. Jude India Child Care Centers, and St. Jude takes care of children with cancer, and they provide like really good facility to live, like, shelters for children and their families to stay while they come from across the country for treatments. And so while I was working, then I did like a really short stint with St. Jude. I was there for about 11 months. And while I was there, I saw that a lot of children come from, like, various villages, various cities in India to for the treatment of cancer. And cancer being cancer, it's quite a crazy illness, right? It's quite notorious as an illness. um, One comes to realization about cancer at, like, stage 1 or stage 2, and then suddenly you realize that, oh, you are at stage 3 or stage 4, and there's no scope of survival. So what happens is, at that point, St. Jude is not in a position to take care of them anymore, because they believe that they would want to rather take care of children who have good prognosis, which means they have like a better likelihood of survival, than children who have been declared palliative. So they would ask them to go back to their villages or their home, because they would also want them to spend the last whatever time they have left with their families. But a lot of children did not want to go back. They wanted to stay here, they wanted to be in the city, they wanted to be in that setup, because that was different, that was nicer. um but, like, we couldn't have kept them. So, and I saw that there are like so many organizations, and you are aware of it yourself too, so many organizations who are working on so many causes, so many issues around the whole world. But there are very few organizations who actually want to work with people who may not have a high span of life, you know people who may not live longer, who are who are living with an illness. um so it was that is where I got the idea, because I've had a couple of stories, a couple of incidents that happened while I was in St. Jude, that kind of really inspired me, motivated me rather, to think about something like this, and say that what I'm going to start is actually going to be opposite of St. Jude. It is not going to be St. Jude. It is going to be like, we will have children who may not have high scope of survival, who may not have good prognosis, children who may have illnesses which are not curable. So, like illnesses like HIV, illnesses like thalassemia. Um, and whether it is a child with cancer, with poor prognosis, good prognosis, we will work with all of them, because um, everybody deserves dignity, everybody deserves to live a good life. And I have a very deep connection with death ever since I was a child. So I've seen people die, but ever since I was like really small. And that has also taught me a lot of things, because like, usually, and my observations, of course, but usually you see that people, when they're dying, we are only looking at them as people who are dying. But once a person dies, we do everything in our capacity to make things better, for, like, to honor their life, to uh, bring back their memories. So we will make their favorite food, we will have all these rituals, all the ceremonies and stuff like that. But while they're alive, we don't really look at them as people who are living, people who are actually breathing and talking and have feelings, have stuff to say, have wishes to fulfill. So yeah, I mean, too many things that happened around that time is what actually inspired me to start a Happy Feet Home.
It's really powerful, Mansi. And I'm just thinking about some of the stories and the lives that you may have impacted over such a long period since you started Happy Feet Home. And like, in terms of like what the organization does, if you could give me a brief overview of what Happy Feet Home does for someone that is not familiar with palliative care and the illnesses that you specifically work with, and the patients or clients you particularly work with.
Sure. So to begin with, I would actually want to uh, I would want to clear the misconception people have about palliative care. Usually, when we talk about palliative care, people think palliative care is only for cancer. People think palliative care is only end of life care, or it is only medical care, or it is only for the patients. All of this is untrue.
Hmm.
Palliative care is not only for cancer. Palliative care is for any illness, any illness that a person has, which can be chronic, which can be lifelong illness, or it may not have, an a cure, or it may be life threatening. Palliative care is not only for uh, end of life care. It actually is supposed to start from the time you start your treatment, and it needs to go on till the very end. It does not only mean it's for the patients, it actually also includes and involves the family, and like the caregivers as well, because they also reach burnout, right? And it is not only medical care. It basically is a holistic way of caring for a person. So it includes psychosocial, emotional, spiritual, financial, all aspects of care that you can probably provide. So that is palliative care for you, and most people do not understand this. So, okay, coming to what Happy Feet Home does. Happy Feet Home does exactly everything by the book of palliative care. So we make sure that children who live with life limiting, life threatening illnesses are treated with dignity and respect. So that's the first thing that we look at. We make sure that children have access to all the facilities that a normal child, a regular child in a family who may not have an illness has access to. Because one, let me also give you a little background of who our children are. So, like our children, like I said, are children with life limiting, life threatening illnesses. All of our children come from extremely low income backgrounds. Majority of our children are either orphans or have single parents, and they all are closeted. They have a lot of trauma attached to the illness that they have been living with, because as society we're not really very kind towards people with HIV and thalassemia, etc. Now these are children who got it from the womb of the mother, or a lot of our children have HIV because they have thalassemia, and with thalassemia you have to go for blood transfusion. So sometimes they get infected blood, and that is how they get thalassemia and HIV both. So they're living with two illnesses. So care in Happy Feet Home, what we do is, for our children, we make sure that they have we access to good food. So we take care of their nutrition, their education, vocation. So they have access to good education. In case children are not in a position to be in a proper school or college, then we enroll them into a vocational course. Then they have access to good mental health support, and they have access to medical support. We have three programs. So we have a daycare program, which is where I am right now. We have children who come here during the day, and they spend the entire day until night. So, and these children get all the facilities that I just spoke about: medicine, education, vocation, etc. We have a home care program. Home care is for children who are not in a position to come to the center, because either they are extremely sick, or they're immobile, or they are in the last stages. So these are the children who uh, like we make sure that we go to their homes, and we take whatever happens in the daycare program, we take that for the children in the comforts of their homes. So education happens there, medical support happens there, psychosocial support happens there, etc. And then we also have a hospital outreach program, where we have people from the Happy Feet Home team who go into the hospital. What we do is, we do very simple things. We ensure that we create a safe space for children to be children. We create a space where children are not scared of being in a hospital. They are happy. They have activities to do. They have things to color and explore, and games to play and stuff like that, right? Which also gives a little bit of respite to their caregivers, in case they have to do, some bit of legwork for the papers and this department to that department and stuff like that. So these are the three main programs of Happy Feet Home. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Well, that's great, Mansi. And like I see that you have so many different services, but I'm curious about how your organization has evolved over time. So when you started it, were you the single founder of the organization, and how many team members do you have? So how did what was the history of Happy Feet Home since you founded it?
So when I started Happy Feet Home, I had a co-founder, uh, and him and me were starting Happy Feet Home together. But then, due to some health issues and stuff, he had to go back to where he came from. Like he was from Rajasthan, so he had to go back, and so he had to leave Happy Feet Home. So since then, I have been the only person who's pretty much like I was the only founder left. We started with a team of 4 people, and we kept growing as we kept growing the programs and the children and stuff like that. And today we are a team of 20 odd people running this organization.
That's amazing, Mansi. Does it because I can't imagine how difficult it must be to run the organization with the emotional challenges of being there as a support staff, but also the financials of running a non-profit organization. That's something that you also have to consider as the founder as well. So for someone that is just curious about the not-for-profit side of it, how does that normally work for someone that wants to start a similar center in their city in another place in India?
um I'm sorry, can you repeat your question?
I'm just curious if someone wants to start like a Happy Feet home in another city in India, like what would they have to consider in terms of financial planning and legal requirements for that sort of center?
So simple things like as an organization, anybody who wants to start an organization in India, you need to have your registration certificate in place. So you have to go through the charity commissioner, get your registration in place. Then you need to do your 12A and ATG, which are basically for the tax benefits and tax rebate certificates. So you need to get that, and then you need to do like your due diligence in terms of like your accounts being really crystal clear, it being very transparent, submitting your financials every year and stuff like that. What I would suggest as somebody who has done this, um, where we went wrong was we did our registration at a decent time, like so immediately right after we started, we were starting Happy Feet Home, but we took a lot of time in doing our 12 and ATG. So like if somebody wants to start an organization, I would really recommend that they do the registration first and immediately do the 12 in an ATG, because then it is smoother, it's easier, and it does not go through a lot of complications. You don't have too many questions coming your way. But like if you wait, then that becomes like that's like a little difficult, because then you have to show so many years of um, like your financials, and then if you don't have your 12 and ATG, it is looked upon as income, not a donation. Whatever
Hmm.
money people give is then looked upon as income and not a donation. So get your 12A, get your ATG, get your registration sorted before you start your actual work.
That's great advice, Mansi. And like for someone that wants to support Happy Feet Home, whether you stay in India or abroad or not even in Bombay, but another city in the country, how are the different ways we can support and work with Happy Feet Home?
So various ways, right? One is we need people to come and help us in the work that we're doing. So one of the things that they can do is support us by volunteering, be a spokespeople, spread the awareness about Happy Feet Home. The other thing is really like by donating, whether it is donation in kind or donation in cash. So we, because we cook for children here, we have children who spend the entire day here, we have a lot of requirements, right from groceries to stationaries to, like, their books and stuff like that, art material, toys and games and all of it. In terms of money, we have like a huge budget of almost 3 crore rupees. So that's like a challenge to raise, because, like I said in the beginning, palliative care is a very misunderstood concept. So people usually think that children who are in happy feet home are children who are dying, and a lot of people who actually come to us would say, like, but then your children don't deserve to live like this, and why would you do something for children who have just such a short span of life? You'd rather, like, do something for children who have a better scope at living and stuff like that. So we've had these kind of questions as well. So yeah, like, then raising funds becomes a challenge. So people from India, whoever wants to give us money, can go on to our website and they can make a contribution there. We also have a QR code if anybody needs. People from abroad honestly cannot make a contribution because we don't have an FCRA, but it's just Indian donations that we can accept right now.
Got it. And and I will be including links to the same in the show notes as well for anyone that wants to follow this conversation up with a way to work with Happy Feet Home in any way possible. But Mansi, like in terms of the psychosocial support, there is the physical toll of an illness that is on the child and also on the family. But there's also the emotional side of managing those conversations that you have to really be sensitive with. And as you were speaking, I just started thinking that if it was your child, if it was your parent, what would you want for them at that point in their life? And we as individuals should start thinking from that perspective. Is that um, I feel like sometimes we're not able to do that. So if you could just give us like a glimpse of what the emotional and physical challenges of someone that needs palliative care is, that would be really helpful.
Oh, that's a good question. See, to begin with, just imagine living a life where, sorry,
No worries. So I think you're still on mute, Mansi.
I said I have a dog.
Oh, that's nice.
I
It's
have a
it's
dog
okay, man.
who decided to participate in this call. Like, say, well, okay, so that's a great question. Um, I'll give you a small, like, anecdote of what I have seen, and that has stayed with me. So while I was working at St. Jude, um, there used to be this family who had come from Bihar, and the son had cancer, and the son um, was, I think, was around 14 or 15 years old, and his parents were extremely protective about him, and they did not want him to know about his illness. And the son is 14, 15, so he's smart enough, he knows, he's grown up enough to understand what's going on. He knows that he's constantly sick, he's not keeping well, he's losing hair, he's losing his appetite and stuff like that. And plus he has been uprooted from wherever he lived and been brought to Mumbai for some treatment, which they said it was just like, regular, you have TB or you have some other illness, but they did not tell him that he has cancer. So they used to take him to the Tata Memorial Hospital every time, and they used to get him tested, and they used to get him checked or whatever, get the medicines, chemo, radiation, sub, everything used to happen there. Now, I used to work very closely with children at St. Jude, and the parents would tell us that we don't want him to know about his illness. We want to keep it a secret, and no matter how much we tried, they were very, very adamant that they do not want him to know about it. One day, this boy comes to me and says, I want to talk to you. I'm like, Didi, I know I have cancer and I know I may not live long. And I was like, how do you know that? So he said that because I'm in Mumbai, I go to Tata Memorial Hospital. I have access to information. I know what Tata Memorial does. I know it's for cancer. And I know I'm losing hair and, I feel lethargic and sick and all the time. And then I was like, okay, so do you want to tell your parents about it? And he would be like, no, I don't. Because if they want to live in a bubble, or if they want to live in this feeling that they are protecting me, then I would like to protect them. So you see what was happening here. The child was trying to protect the family, the parents were trying to protect the child, but there was no proper communication. And we tried, to have, like, I as an individual, because he only came and spoke to me, I cannot even break his confidence. But, I also told him, do you want to go through therapy and stuff like that? And he did go through therapy, but they were still not very okay with it. But, therapy as psychosocial support, it plays such a humongous role in every aspect. It's not only about illnesses, right? It's also about us as individuals. Any person who's living, if you do not hesitate to take a paracetamol or a Comiflem for your headache or for your fever, you should not hesitate to even go to a psychiatrist or a therapist or psychologist for mental health support. So in Happy Feet Home, mental health support is really, really huge. We have three psychologists, and we have three people who are trained in art-based therapy. And we are still looking for people, because there is just so much work in this field, that it's never enough. So yeah, I mean, psychosocial help is a way to go. It's really important.
Like, I can't imagine what kinds of conversations can you have with someone, especially. And I think when you were telling me this story, Mansi, I realized that children are so much more intelligent, smarter, emotionally mature than we give them credit for. And the fact that a child is trying to protect his parents, even though he's going through so much pain, it shows so much emotional maturity, and it's something that we as adults also struggle to do on a day-to-day basis. And I'm just curious, like, when you look at something like art-based therapy, how does this give them a space to navigate the emotional and financial struggles associated with that time, that period of their life?
So art-based therapy is just a beautiful concept. It's like, I mean, just imagine you want to talk about the pain you're going through, the trauma you are going through, or memories or whatever, but you're doing it through the medium of dancing or singing or a story or colors or, just drama and stuff like that. So it's not intimidating. It's not like a therapist to a client kind of a relationship. It's just like, through activities, you're just bringing out a lot of things within yourself, and then you also understand a lot of things. It also gives the therapist a beautiful insight into what's going on into your body, what's going on in your heart, in your brain. So, we use a lot of art based therapy in Happy Feet Home, whether it is in the center or the hospital or home care. That's like our basic, the main um, therapy that we usually follow. The other things we follow is also narrative therapy and regular psychological, psychosocial, whatever, the any, like, there's something called as EMDR and stuff like that. We use various methods of therapy.
And like, I spent some time on your Instagram page, Mansi, and there are so many beautiful videos of the kids so happy, engaging in these activities. And I know at one point Sachin Tendulkar had come with his wife to spend some time with the kids, but it just seems so intentional about creating a positive space and a safe, happy space for the kids. And it just changes this understanding of what a medical space should look like, because when we think about hospitals at that point in someone's life, we have these very negative associations, of what the end of your life would look like, which is why so many of us refrain from it. And I was looking at some statistics, from an Indian context about how in India, and these were again these papers, you may know the numbers better, Mansi, but in India, about out of 1,000 people would need, palliative care in some way or the other. And then it's very different in the rural context, where it's 7 out of 1,000 in the rural context and 4 out of 1,000 in the urban context. Surprisingly, in the south and north of India, the statistics also vary, where more people require palliative care in the south than in the north. And I'm curious about, where that comes from. But also some positive stories of how certain states, like Kerala, for instance, is a highlight for how, central or state level palliative care policy has been trickled down, in a systemic way across the state, with some of the highest number of palliative care units in a particular state. But even in terms of palliative care policy, medical policy in the country, not many states have, established policies to actually direct their efforts and budget towards this extremely important problem. So, like in terms of how India is doing as a country with palliative care, can you, share some of the insights you have gathered as a practitioner in this field for so many years?
So I don't have the numbers on the top of my head, but I know for a fact that less than 1% of people who deserve or who are in need of palliative care, less than 1% of them actually have access to it. And that is shocking, right? That's just very, very scary. Now when you're talking about Kerala is doing really great work in the space of palliative care, because there are many hospices, there are many palliative care centers. They usually also do like a lot of home care and home visits. So Kerala is basically the land of palliative care. Like a lot of that happens there, and there are amazing organizations in Kerala. But if you were to look at other parts of the country, a lot of people don't even know about the concept. So, and I think like what has stuck with, we've also done our statistics and we've tried to understand like how many people are suffering with HIV or living with HIV or with thalassemia and cancer and etc., especially children. But what has really stuck with me is what I said, like less than 1% of them have access to palliative care, and I think that is astounding because it's just so wrong.
Yeah, like in terms of, because was there a particular reason when you started the organization you chose to focus on children and not adults? Was that your vision from the start, Mansi?
I wanted to work with children and young adults. So Happy Feet Home works with children and young adults. We have children we have our young adults are till the age of 25. So we have the youngest child we have in Happy Feet Home is about a year and a half old, and the oldest is 25 years old. So this is the age group that we work with. I wanted to work with children because I'm comfortable with them. I have always worked with children, so that was basically, it was not like, I don't want to work with adults, but it's just my comfort zone.
Hmm. And like, I'm curious about you as an individual, Mansi. Apart from your work at Happy Feet Home, what are some of the other things you enjoy doing that bring you joy, outside your work at Happy? Because I can't imagine. Like every other job, there's a lot of demands at your workplace. But what other things bring you joy outside your workplace for you?
So one, see, I wouldn't deny work at Happy Feet Home can be challenging. It can be stressful, but having said that, it is filled with joy. It's just filled with so much love. I mean, our children are beautiful people. They just fill your day with a lot of happiness, with a lot of love. You're generally at the receiving end. It's not that we are giving; it's basically we're receiving a lot of that. Um, and apart from that, so yes, work keeps me motivated and it keeps me like going. But apart from that, I really love meeting my friends, spending time with my family, catching up with like old friends over whatever coffee or whatever, and then I really enjoy deep conversations, and I do spend a lot of time with my pet. So spending time with Pixie, my pet's name is Pixie. Spending time with her is really really uh, it's very relaxing. Um, and then I have a nephew with whom I spend a lot of time, and so I have like I basically am a people person. So everything that I do has to involve people.
It's so wonderful, Mansi. And thank you so much, Mansi, for making time for this and sharing your story. I will be linking the Happy Feet Home website and social media handles in the show notes. I highly recommend, spending some time reviewing that website to not only
Sure.
understand Mansi's journey, but also the journey of this wonderful organization that has created this wonderful environment for children and young adults in the city of Mumbai that need those palliative care support needs. So, on that note, we come to an end of this episode. Mansi, thank you so much for making
Thank you,
time for
Vishay.
this. And until next time, keep learning.
All right.